You do know that the same manager who's concerned about poor delivery in your software team is very often the same manager who wants to keep everyone busy. Now, if you can't see the irony in that statement, stick around because I think I can give you some insights into why that mentality is a problem. And if you already know why that's a problem, let's talk about how we can try and unpick this mentality, which ironically harms delivery. Now, when we're talking about poor delivery, I had an experience in my career quite a few times where managers get pissed off that software teams commit to X amount of work, but they can't get it done. And very commonly, there's this kind of thing where the manager wants to see everyone busy. Now, you might think to yourself, well, what's wrong with that? We're paying you money. We've got bums on seats. Of course we want to see you busy. Let me ask you a question. When you're watching a game of football, it could be European or American, there's one ball on that field or pitch, agreed? If one player has the ball and the other players around them in your team don't have that ball at their feet, which they can't, does that mean that those players are not valuable? No, of course not. Players can move off the ball, they can hold position, they can set up opportunities. Value is not just determined by everyone touching the ball. The aim of the game is to score a goal. There's one ball and there's one net. And so what I'm alluding to here is a scrum team, a Kanban team, a software team, call them what you want. They're trying to deliver value, right? There's one ball on that field or that pitch. It's like working in a pizza restaurant. Let's just try another analogy off the top of the head. If there's only 2 ovens in a pizza restaurant and I'm your manager and I'm in your ears saying everyone needs to start making as many orders they can at the same time, is that a good idea? Even if you did start kneading the dough and adding the toppings or whatever, does that make a difference to how fast we're going to make the pizzas with only 2 ovens? No, if anything, we're going to be tripping over each other and impeding our delivery. Starting lots of new pizzas results in lots of half-baked pizzas. And that's where I'm going in this conversation. Because the manager that believes that everyone needs to be busy, pulling in more work, starts clogging up the whole system for you to get work across the board. And you can see here we've got some sort of Kanban board. And you've got a software team who are encouraged to keep pulling in work. Keep pulling in work. Keep pulling in work. Yeah, but it's not how much you start, it's how much you finish, right? So we've agreed it's illogical to keep pulling in more work, even though there's only so much we can do at one time. So you start adding a WIP limit, a work in progress limit. And this is some sort of way of what it says on the tin, limiting the amount of work you can start at one time. And there are genuine reasons why Bob turns up to the office and says, oh, look, there's a massive bottleneck on the board. Let me just pull in more work to feed the bottleneck. Perhaps that person may not have the skill. If they don't have the skill, you should think about how you can cross-skill. Perhaps that person doesn't have the domain knowledge and doesn't feel comfortable. Do the same. Perhaps that person believes that their work is only their work. It's my task. It's not really about our goal. This is really important to think about. Does your team have multiple goals? Is your team even a team or are they a working group? A working group is a bunch of people who now and again help each other out. They socialize, they know each other, but they're not putting the same ball into the same net. So you might want to look at that. Perhaps you've got a pseudo team where team players have different leads or different managers and it's the head of test or the head of back-end development. And even though we have one shared visualized board, people just focus on the work that they need to do. Maybe you should look at that as well. But when it comes to drawing attention to this issue, it's all about data. When we measure the time that it takes for work to begin and to end, if we want to improve that, because that's what the manager wants, right? That's what we want to do. We want to improve delivery. That's what their concern was. What can we then do? Well, if you're measuring the cycle time, you can hypothesize and say, I think we can improve cycle time, the amount of work that we can get done, if we limit the amount of work that we start. And if we stick to those things, if we can get that across and run the experiment, we may get the ear of the team and the manager. But remember, there's a few gnarly problems to address on the way there. Team members thinking, it's my task, it's my work, I'm not really concerned about the end game or the goal. Pseudo teams having managers within the teams that make you focus on only on your part of the work. And management who think that unless you're busy and you've got smoke coming out of your ears that you're working so hard, they're not getting their money's worth. You have to help them see that it's illogical. Show them the cycle time, show them the data, show them that we can end up with more complete pizzas rather than half-cooked pizzas by bringing in more work. We have to bring the data, and we have to then position a narrative to show it doesn't really add up. Now, this is easier said than done because many times I've got the data, I've demonstrated why it's rational, I've got some people paying attention, still can't make the impact. Because the pushback you may get from the manager is, look, I don't care, that makes sense, but we've got to get lots of work going. And that then leads to other questions like, well, what are we really focused on in the next quarter? Everything. All right, well, if everything is important, then is anything really important? I'm not trying to be a purist. I get there are multiple priorities that need to come in. But at the same time, there is a scale, there is a gradient of lots of things happening at once. And once you help people see this, they can't unsee this. It becomes like a pebble in their shoe that rolls around and becomes uncomfortable. So, consider the ideas. And I'd love to hear yours because I know there's a wealth of knowledge with people who have had this same challenge. All right, unscripted, bit choppy, but there you go.